report showing ISIS intelligence was skewed to paint a much better picture of the fight against ISIS.
This is the natural result of an administration which has been lying at every level.
If we don't understand what's really going on, you can't fight this war properly. They were manipulating intelligence in a way that put our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines at risk.
That means assets weren't delivered to the places they needed to be in time, maybe to save people's lives. This is coming from the top to try to paint a rosier picture for the president's domestic politics. You're putting American lives, service members in harm's way, and risking our national security.
This is a very serious problem.
Former Navy SEAL and the man who shot and killed Osama bin Laden, Rob O'Neill, goes on the record. I've been dying to talk to you about this. People want to hear what you have to say. This really infuriates the American people.
I'm hoping it infuriates the American people. I'm assuming this infuriates a lot of the educated American people, Kimberly, but a lot of people aren't paying attention to this, and I think that's part of it. Well, some of them do, and some, it doesn't surprise me that it does get skewed a little bit, because I've seen it before on certain levels that it depends on who your audience is, where you're going to present your intelligence reports, and I'm assuming at some levels there are senior intel officials who are giving it to their bosses, and their bosses don't like it, so they want to change it. Part of the way that it goes, just to maybe paint a rosier picture of what's happening on the ground, because nobody wants to hear about the end game, what is happening, what's going to happen, what we need to do. And I mean, we've seen it even before with even President Bush. They made mistakes, and they had a rosy picture of the invasion of Iraq and what's going to happen after, even though they didn't want to admit it. They got to 2007 and said, look, that was bad, now we're changing it. Yeah. And if we don't stay here and we leave, there's going to be a vacuum, and we're going to end up coming back because it's going to get so bad after hundreds of thousands of murders, and that happens too. Nobody wants to hear that stuff. You hear the term that I personally love, war weary, which I'm amazed that 99% of the population has never been to war and they're weary about it somehow. But they just don't. They don't want to go back to war, and a lot of political decisions are made based, obviously, on public opinion. Nobody wants to fight. No one wants to realize that whether they like it or not, we are in a global jihad. So I'm not surprised at all.
But how reckless, when I think about the men and women who serve that are in there in the theater like you, and the number of assets that we determine that we need to commit to an area, to a region, based on conflict and real-time intelligence coming in, could be vastly underestimated based on this suppression and distortion.
If they're getting a different view of what's happening on the ground, and that goes further and further up the chain of command, they're going to start to worry more about collateral damage than they will about the actual fighter on the ground. And they'll think, well, things are going so well, we don't need this much air support for this and that. And I have friends that, I mean, they won't admit it. A lot of officials won't admit it. They're fighting up in northern Iraq against ISIS every day. And they said it's so hard to get air support simply because the assets are not there, and that's got to be a direct result of, well, we must not need them if everything's going so fine. So it's definitely frustrating. I've seen it before, though. We're very, very good at just painting what people want to hear. And a prime example for me is in Afghanistan and Iraq, towards the end of my career, it was always, well, we're doing an Afghan-led hit. But we're doing an Iraqi, that is all a bunch of nonsense. It's about bringing the guys out there. I mean, look what happens when we spend billions of dollars on the Iraqi army. The first time they fight ISIS, they leave everything, they drop their guns, throw their weapons, don't fight, they're running away. It's just because we paint a picture based on whatever decision people are making, and a lot of times it's just so people can get elected in their next cycle.
Well, that's the problem. You have like political influence and ideology bleeding in and corrupting, especially in an area where you really need to get it right. You need to have the right number of assets, and also when I think about it, things that are restrictive and debilitating to the troops that are on the ground there.
It's ultimately affecting the troops too.
Overly restrictive rules of engagement, right?
That's completely.
Don't get shot at. That's it. You can't return fire, etc. And then when you hear things like this, I mean, no wonder ISIS went from JV in one season to varsity. I mean, this is a problem.
And the problem there too is just because we have our focus on ISIS right now, what happened to Al Qaeda? Maybe because we're not talking about them, maybe they don't exist because their heads in the sand, or maybe Al Qaeda's smart enough to realize, you know what, if we don't say anything or do anything, we'll let ISIS take the headlines for a while, and all of a sudden, bam. Because if you recall, they attacked the World Trade Center in 1993. It was bad, we lost some people, but then, okay, nothing happened, there's no way they'll come back. Well, they came back.
Well, they come back, and sometimes they regroup, and they have a different name, that and that's the deal. Whether you have the Ansar al-Sharia or you have AQAP.
Well, even right now, they name different stuff. They say al-Nusra Front in Syria. That's a couple thousand Al-Qaeda guys. They're not Al-Qaeda inspired, it's Al-Qaeda. And it's the same brand that ISIS is. They're trying to do the same thing, which is just to well, basically Armageddon, have their brand of Sunni Islam take over the world. But as long as, we don't say that, maybe I'll get the next promotion or someone else will get elected where we want them to. And it's not being real. It's not, wars aren't fought in surges. Wars are fought as wars. You win the war and then you end.
You're absolutely right.
Now we go in there, we nation build, we talk very nice, we're politically correct, which is going to result in
And in making America less safe in general. I'll tell you what I think about when I sit here and I look at you, and I think about the homeland, I think about American soil, and I wonder if we are grossly and vastly underestimating and skewing the numbers about what's going on here at home as it relates to domestic terrorism.
Even our friends in Europe are doing the same thing. They're not talking about they barely do, but they talk about the massive problems with migrants. I know I have friends in Germany that say they don't want to leave their houses at night because the migrants are running wild. It's crazy out there. You see what happened on New Year's with all the sexual assaults, hundreds of them, but we don't want to talk about it because we might offend somebody, and it goes all that leads all the way back down to the political correctness that we see in the streets, we see for our rules of engagement, we see in war, and it's just we'd rather see people physically get hurt and killed or injured than get offended.
Unbelievable. I never saw anybody do well by having their head in the sand. It just makes it easier for them to come and chop it off. All right, Rob O'Neill was my favorite person. Thank you again for your service.
Always good to be here. Thanks, Kimberly.
All right, and Donald Trump getting a special